Hello everyone, welcome to William and the Magic Box. Today on our show, we are going to have Storm. Storm is from San Francisco in California in the USA. So let's see what Storm has to say. Enjoy the interview. So hello Storm, how are you?
I'm doing well. How are you doing?
Very well. Thanks so much for taking the time this morning. My goodness, this morning for the interview. Thank you for waking up earlier.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Absolutely. I have my coffee here, so I'm ready to go.
Are you more of day or night person?
I think of myself as more of a night person, but my partners have recently accused me of being a morning person. So I don't know, I enjoy night more, but when I get up in the morning, I'm usually able to get a lot of stuff done, when it's quiet. So I do tend to, today is a wash because I'm doing this, but usually my mornings are pretty productive. So I don't know, little column A, a little column B.
I see. And where are you from, Storm?
I was born and I live in the San Francisco Bay Area.
Also, that's a place you always been living. You've been raised there.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, my mom was actually born here in the Bay Area, and I've moved around a few towns, here in the Bay Area. But yeah, my whole life, I've tried to visit, other places and kind of do my little bit to see the world. But I always end up coming back home to the Bay. So yeah, this is definitely where my home and my heart is.
And what's the best part of living there, in your opinion?
I think diversity. Actually, there's a lot of different types of people. And, that also means a lot of different cultures and a lot of different types of food and different perspectives. And that's something that I really love. It's also in terms of, what I do for a living, it's one of the hot spots in the world. I am a writer and a teacher on neo-pagan witchcraft. And the San Francisco Bay Area is really kind of a hotbed, for pagan, and magical activity. So yeah, it kind of works out.
Amazing. So tell me a little bit about your career as an author and also a teacher.
So I have always been drawn to the practice of magic and witchcraft. And I knew from an early age that that's what I wanted to do. And so that's kind of what I had my sights set on. And, one thing led to another. And I read everything that I could. And I found groups, eventually to teach me, to get, trained. And so now, yeah, here it is. Like I've been practicing for 38 years, but now I'm a teacher, and I've written several books, on the subject. Most of them through Llewellyn Worldwide, but yeah, now I get to just do what I love pretty much, which is I offer classes, I write, and my partners and I also have an online store where we sell art and magical supplies. So kind of living the dream, living the witch's dream.
So tell me about this community, Witchcraft. Tell me a little bit about it. What is about? What let's say how people connect with it.
Okay, well, I was first drawn at an early age, like I mentioned. Later on, as I started to study things on the craft and philosophies, one of the things that really drew me was there was generally a sense of environmentalism. And there was also an aspect of the craft that is very sex positive. And as a gay man, my spiritual needs weren't being met by the mainstream religions. In fact, usually mainstream religions would tell me that I was evil and my people were evil and, all of that. So witchcraft was some place that I could go and be validated, and I could actually be told, oh no, not only are you not evil, but you're special and you're powerful. And so I think that a lot of queer people end up finding witchcraft or adjacent spiritualities because we are hungry, for that spiritual connection. But again, often we're not served by the mainstream religions. So a lot of people in the witchcraft community tend to be more open, tend to be more accepting of different types of people. Not everyone, of course, it's human beings. So you have bigots everywhere, but for the most part, I find that the witchcraft community is really open to alternative, we'll say in quotes, alternative lifestyles. But yeah, and then a lot of now the connections, for community are happening online. And I think that's really exciting, actually, especially in this time kind of post COVID. I guess it's not really post COVID, we're in the middle of COVID, but a lot of people don't want to have in-person connections for safety. And so a lot of shifting has occurred to teach online, to have actually gatherings online. And so we've certainly been doing that as well. I've been teaching witchcraft online, actually don't know how many years. It's been a long time. And so when COVID happened, I was already set up. It's like, oh, okay, I don't have to really change that much. I'm already doing this. So now I just work from home full time.
So the witchcraft community has been for a long while already.
Yeah, I mean, the witchcraft community itself, the modern witchcraft community, really started to gel, of course, before I was born. It would have been 1954, I think, was the first book written by a witch from the inside, and Gerald Gardner in the UK. And since then, the witchcraft community has really kind of taken off like wildfire. At certain points in US history, witchcraft has been named the fastest growing religion, in part because we don't have dogma. We have very little in the way of established churches. So really, if you want to be a witch, you can just be a witch. You can just declare yourself a witch. You can practice. There's a lot of different places that you can get information, websites and books and all sorts of, great resources. And we don't necessarily have a pope. We don't have anybody who's telling you, you're in or you're out. It's a very personal path. And yet I think humans do want that sense of community, even though it is, it can be a very solitary path, but that doesn't mean we all have to be solitary people, and so I do find a lot of people wanting to augment their personal practices by having, a sense of community. And again, right now, that really is being served mainly online, and so my partners and I have a few different Discord servers that are attached to some of the courses and events that we put on. And so we definitely have a thriving online community, that way.
I actually had an interview last year with someone from Texas, if I'm not wrong, that he's getting into it. He's kind of studying about the witchcraft. I remember he's talking about a little bit about it. I remember that.
Nice.
Like your mug.
Thank you. This is my favorite mug. This was given to me by a friend. I'm always paranoid that I'm going to break it, but I treat it very carefully. But yeah, this is my favorite. I'm definitely a Disney fan, so there you go.
Storm, are you ready to go on a beautiful journey through your memories in life and to share your point of views?
Thank you. Yes, absolutely.
Amazing. Welcome to William in the Magic Box. So this is my best friend, okay? The fun questions. I'm just gonna play a song now just for us to move a little bit before the first question. Let's do it. Okay, Storm, before we start the game, during the journey, if there is a question that you don't want to talk about for some reason, you don't want to answer, always can change, okay?
Okay, thank you.
First question for you is, do you think your priorities have changed since you were younger?
Yeah, my priorities have changed since I was younger. When I was young, I really wanted to be famous, and when I was very young, I actually wanted to be an actor. That was one of the, I wanted to do a lot of things when I was a kid, right? I wanted to be an ice cream man at one point, an astronaut, a scientist, all those things. But I wanted to be an actor for a long time. And I wanted to be famous. Now that I'm semi-famous in my little pond, I like to say I'm a medium fish in a micro small pond. Having a few, books out, people in the pagan community tend to know my name, or at least some of them do. I can say that type of fame is not everything it's cracked up to be, so I definitely don't really care about the fame thing anymore. Now I just really care about doing what I think is right, and whether that be through, providing materials, magical and spiritual materials to the public, which is a big calling of mine, to be a public warlock, or through political activism. That's something that I'm also, involved in. So fame has really taken much more of a back seat. I don't really care about that so much. Because there's a lot of other things that come along with fame or being semi-famous or semi-known that aren't so great. You tend to get targeted by a lot of people, especially now in the online age. I've definitely been the target of cyberbullying and some other things like that, and that's not fun. But having gone through it now, it didn't kill me, so here I am.
I'm afraid to say after this interview, you're gonna be very famous.
Oh gosh, I don't know.
And
growing take up, it as it comes.
Growing up, did you have any idol or someone that you like to be like similar to?
No, that's interesting because growing up as a gay boy in the 1970s, I'll be 52 in a couple months. And thank you for that facial expression. That's perfect.
I know. I was like, oh my God. I thought you were like 32, 33.
Bless you and keep you.
Tell me the secrets. No, don't tell the secret. People are going to get your secret. Everyone's going to be young for now on.
It's funny. People have asked me that before, and it's very flattering, and that's awesome. And I'm so touched that, that people think so. But I think the thing for me really is I drink a lot of water and I stay the out of the sun. Look, I'm a ginger. I am pale. Okay. My ancestors came from Ireland. That's like a foggy land. It's like a shade away from mole people. So no, I stay out of the sun. I can feel like just a minute or two in the sun, I can feel it. Like, oh no, it's burning me, or I don't want to get any more freckles. So no, but thank you. I appreciate it. Yeah. I don't remember your first question.
I was about to say, I cut your thoughts about but you're saying about growing up as a gay boy. When I said about your idol, if you had an idol as a child.
Yeah. So it's interesting because my idols were fictional characters. Because I didn't really see anybody in the world that I identified with. I always felt kind of isolated, and but even most of my fictional characters, they would be female, because all of the male characters, Superman, and I don't know, when I was a kid, sometimes like my parents would put on like Westerns or something, and they thought, oh man, he'll get into cowboys. And like, I wasn't really into cowboys. Later I got into cowboys. That was a whole different thing. But no, I didn't really have any like actual role models, except maybe like, I would say Albert Einstein was for me, because he was the archetype of intelligence. And that was something that really resonated with me. That was a value of mine. But really one of my earliest role models would be the character Wonder Woman. And I was probably 4, I think, when the Linda Carter TV movie, later series, came out. And I think, like probably every other queer boy in the 1970s, was obsessed with Wonder Woman. Looking back, it was because she represented this type of power that was not wrapped up in what we now understand as being toxic masculinity, and so she represented strength, but also compassion. She represented truth, and these were values that I resonated with, so yeah, later on, I want to say my first real male role model was the Doctor from Doctor Who. And because I started watching Doctor Who when I was 8, kicking it old school. And but he was a very non-sexual character. And so he kind of seemed safe, but he was also focused on non-violence and working things out, intellectually. And those were things that really resonated with me. So, but in terms of like actual like people, I guess Einstein would be the closest,
Love your question. I love your answer. My goodness, amazing. I never thought that. I think I never had anyone in the show that had an idol Albert Einstein growing up. That's amazing.
Oh, well, thanks.
Next question. Next question for you is, tell us about your first kiss and your first love.
Oh my goodness. Wow. So my first kiss, I'm not going to say his name, obviously, but my first boyfriend, I was like 17 and turning 18. And I was very insecure, more insecure than I am now. And I remember we were walking together at night near my apartment, and he just stopped me and just turned to me just out of the blue and just like kissed me, and the whole world melted away. I was just, and here I was. I was not very. I didn't necessarily feel safe normally, showing public, affection, especially back then. I mean, even living in the San Francisco Bay Area, some people are amazed, like, oh my God, you experienced homophobia? Yes, of course I experienced homophobia, growing up, and kind of heinously at times. I'd been attacked, I'd been chased, I'd been threatened, but there was no one around at this point. And I remember I didn't even care. I was just so like in the moment. It was absolutely, absolutely beautiful. It didn't last that long, of course, because I was, 18 years old. And that's kind of, I had so many other things that hadn't happened yet and whatever, but I'll always remember that time fondly. He was and he actually, I saw him a few years later, and he had started practicing witchcraft.
Wow.
And I thought, well, that's pretty interesting, whatever. And he was actually part of a coven, and I thought that's pretty cool. And we lost touch, but I hope he's doing well.
And he was your first love as well?
He was my first boyfriend. I later realized when I got a few years later, I guess, when I was 21, I dated this guy again briefly, and then I realized, no, he was my first love, because it was different, right? I think my first boyfriend, it was much more experimental and just trying to find my way in the world. But then when I got together with I don't want to say my second boyfriend, but kinda, my whole world was all about him, and it was a little obsessive, I will say. It was probably good. We're still basically friends now. We're friends on Instagram, and and we kind of chat a little bit, on that level. But this guy was actually my first actual love, and so I'll always remember him fondly, for that.
Great. Next question. Before the next question, tell me about your podcast, Witch Power Daily Podcast.
Oh, yeah, thank you. Well, it's on hiatus right now because I did 30 episodes, and they were released daily, at the time, hence the name, Witch Power Daily. But it's really, and it is coming back. I just don't know exactly when season 2, will happen, when I have some time. But it's geared around helping people establish a spiritual and magical practice of their own. And so it starts with some very basic exercises, and every episode has a guided meditation, a guided trance journey, or a guided spell. And it starts with very simple foundational things like, we're going to do this breathing technique, and now we're going to do this relaxation, and now we're going to do this grounding, and everything kind of layers on. And so there's 30 episodes in season 1, and there's a big range of things that people can do. But I will actually talk about a little issue or an aspect of a witchcraft magical practice, and then I'll address that particular issue with a short guided meditation or spell. And the whole thing can take anywhere from like 10 to 30 minutes, depending on, the meat of the material. And so I've been getting some good feedback from people saying that it's been helpful for them to help them start or even maintain or kind of inject some new life into what may have become a stale spiritual practice. So I'm very excited that people are discovering it. So yeah, thank you for asking me about it. It's been a lot of fun, and I'm hoping that season 2 will come out in a couple months.
All right. Next question is, what are you most passionate about?
What am I most passionate about? First, it's really hard to answer that because I'm a Pisces, right? And so I feel like it depends on when you catch me. What's my favorite thing? I guess right now, what's my favorite thing? The first thing that comes to my mind actually is justice. I feel really passionate, about fairness and justice in the world. I get really bothered when I see injustice, when I see people being put down, especially when it's about things like, their sexuality or their gender or their race or what have you, that really, really bothers me. And so I've always tried to be a voice for progressive acceptance of different types of people and the celebration of people's differences. So that's something that I'm really passionate about. But I'm really passionate about magic and witchcraft. I mean, that is something that has been kind of fueling my drive, for knowledge, really most of my life. I formally dedicated myself to witchcraft when I was 14. So that was, 38 years ago, I guess. Don't make me do the math, but that's been a minute, right? And so that's been something that has really kind of fueled me, for a long time. So, and I love writing about witchcraft, and also the intersection of sexuality, in witchcraft. I recently wrote a book specifically for queer men who want to practice witchcraft with a healthy dose of queer sex magic. It's called the Satyr's Kiss. So if I could do a shameless plug there. So yeah, those are the things that I feel like I'm most passionate about now. But if you ask me tomorrow, I might have some different answers too.
I think when you hang up the interview, you're gonna go like, "Oh my God, I should have said that. I forgot."
That's always what I do. I will look back on the interview and I'll judge that, and I'll also judge like, oh, I keep saying, or so I'm trying to be better about that.
Next question. Next question for you is, if you could have a cup of tea or a coffee with a fictional character, who that would be and why?
With a fictional character, if I could have a cup of coffee or tea, the fictional character. You know what? There is a character, but it has to also be the actress that plays that character. And I'm going to get the actress's name wrong, so I'm not even going to try. But the character is from The Expanse. And it was basically the president of the UN, Christian Avasarala. She was amazing with her raspy voice and her fabulous gowns. I would just love to hang out with her and just listen to her talk. And yeah, I can't remember the actress's name. I feel so bad. I'll have to look it up, but I can almost picture it. But yeah, Christian Avasarala from The Expanse. Oh my God. And I hope that people, if they don't know who she is, they will Google that now, Google The Expanse and find her. She is amazing. You can find some clips on YouTube of her talking. And she's got that raspy, almost like an old smoker's voice, which I just love, especially in an older woman. And just fabulous. She's just fabulous. I just love her. So, and I'm sure the actress would be just as fabulous as the character, by the way. So it's a win-win.
And what would be your first question to her during this tea time?
Well, actually, if it's the actress, I'd want to know
or the character.
Yeah. Okay, so then there's two. So then the actress, I'd want to know, like, when did she and why did she choose acting? Like, when was the first moment that she wanted to, play these other characters? For the fictional character, Christian Avasarala, what question would I want to ask her? I don't even know if I'd want to ask her a question. I feel like I would just want to just be in her presence and just be quiet and just listen to her talk about whatever she wants to talk about. And for fans of the show, I think you'll get it because, there is a lot of heavy stuff that she was dealing with, like the near destruction of Earth, so, and she looked fabulous doing it. I mean, come on. I also want to know, who's your dressmaker? That was just amazing to me. So.
Amazing. Next question. Storm, before the next question, in your opinion, do you think people nowadays, in your overall, do you think they are more connected with their spirituality? Do you think people there, they kind of, I think during the lockdown 2020, I could see so many people, looking more into, their value, think that they believe, I think the words, give a chance for people to kind of connect with other things as well. Do you think, in your opinion, people that are more connected with spirituality right now? The world itself.
The world itself. I don't think so. And I know that sounds kind of dark, whatever, but yeah, I don't think so. I think that there's certainly there's a trend, and trends, rise and fall. I think a lot of people during the lockdown did start focusing on things of that nature. But they also would focus on other things. Like I know a lot of people who decided to use this time to write a novel. I myself wrote 2 books, and had 2 books published, during the lockdown that came out last year, kind of back to back. But if I'm just looking at the news, if I'm looking at different sources and see the state of the world, I don't necessarily see a people who are more invested in their spirituality. I see a lot of darkness happening in the world now, which, now that I'm saying it out loud, probably will and probably is driving people to look for more spiritual solutions. So I guess I'm hopeful that people are, but I don't necessarily think that people are being more spiritual right now. I think that, especially here in the United States, I feel like there's a lot of, there's a lot of darkness. There's a lot of political pressure that is building up, and we'll see where it goes. A lot of us are a little apprehensive, a little sitting on pins and needles, waiting for the other shoe to drop, so to speak. So I'm hopeful that people will turn to spirituality, especially things like mindfulness and practicing kindness. Kindness is something that I feel very passionate about, because I think that if we're going to solve any of the problems in the world, that's really where it has to start. I mean, kindness and justice, I think they have to go hand in hand, justice and compassion. But I'm seeing a lot of people, especially, I consider myself on the political left. I'm a bleeding heart liberal. I'm proud of it. But I see a lot of people in my camp who have become hard and unkind, and have become very rabid, in their political views. And, I understand, obviously standing up for people, who are the underdog, and you need to be kind of rabid about that. And I'm all for that. But I feel like people have taken it to the nth degree, and they're losing their sense of compassion. So if there is one thing that I want for the world right now, I wish that we could just get a big, healthy dose of focusing on compassion, for a while. And that doesn't mean allowing evil to happen. Compassion is not turning a blind eye. Sometimes you still have to fight. You can be a compassionate warrior, but you have to remember what your values are. So I know I'm getting off topic a little bit, but there you go. Sorry.
That's okay. That's okay. Just express your point of view. That's what matters.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Next question is, what was your favorite part about school?
My favorite part about school probably was lunchtime and coming home. I did not have a good time in school, growing up. Again, I was the obvious queer boy, in the 70s and 80s, and obvious to everyone but me. And I was incessantly bullied. And so school was a difficult time for me. But in terms of what I liked at school, in terms of curriculum and stuff like that, I loved science. I've always been really interested in science, not so much math. I suck at math. I can't do head math. I probably have ADHD, but science was always my favorite. I always any form of science, especially things like astronomy. Of course, we didn't really get to do astronomy in school, but my father was involved in that briefly, and so that was something that really, really intrigued me. But yeah, science, biology, all of those things really were interesting to me. But the actual community of school, not so much. Yeah, that was tough.
It makes sense now about Albert Einstein. Some connection there. Now I understand.
Oh, right on. Yeah, thank you.
3 questions left for you, Storm. Let's do it.
Okay.
Before the next one, I made a note here of your novels, your books. The Witch's Name, yeah, and the second one is Satyr's Kiss.
The Satyr's Kiss.
The Satyr's Kiss, okay. So tell me the inspiration to write both.
So I'll start with The Witch's Name. That one came out first. That came out in March of last year, 2022. And that one is all about the custom for witches to take on a specialized name. Usually when they're initiated into the craft or they're brought into a particular group or coven, but not always. It can be for a solitary too. But it is a custom for us to take on a new name that symbolically represents us embarking on a new life. It's a ritual moment of rebirth. And one of the things that we can do when we take on that new name is to choose a name that makes us feel a certain way. You know, maybe it has certain poetic elements that draw from mythology or draw from elements of nature. And those are things maybe that we resonate with, or maybe even more importantly, things that we aspire to. And so they become reminders, these kind of almost constant reminders of these things that we want to be, that we want to manifest within our own lives. My name is a 3-part name, Storm Faerywolf, and that came to me mainly through a series of dreams, you know, that I had that kind of revealed to me what my inherent magical values were. Now, for most people, they're going to take a magical name and it's going to be secret, you know, or only their coven will know. But some people, like myself, are public about what they do. And so I have a public magical name. I also have a couple secret magical names. I have one that is only used among initiates of the fairy tradition, which is the primary tradition that I follow and was initiated into. And then I also have a secret name that only the gods know, that no other human being knows. And so those are things that I work with in a ritual context in order to focus my consciousness in a particular way. So the subtitle of that book is Crafting Identities of Magical Power. So it's all about how do we become, you know, how do we shape our persona, our identity in this way towards our magical goals? So the book is actually more than just choosing a name. It's about trying to figure out, well, who are you at your core? And how can you reflect that on an outer level, you know, by choosing a name? And in witchcraft terminology, it would be like casting a spell on ourselves in order to become the witch or the warlock that we know that we're meant to be. So that's kind of the gist for the witch's name. The Satyr's Kiss, the subtitle is Queer Men, Sex Magic, and Modern Witchcraft. That was actually the first book that I ever wanted to write. Back when I was 14, it would have been a terrible book if I wrote it at 14. I had no experience really at all. But it really is a book that focuses on queer men, queer identities, and queer history, and centering those things in a magical practice. So it is specifically written for queer men, but I am hopeful that other people as well can get something out of it. And in fact, I've heard from a lot of women that they have found it to be useful as well. So that's very touching to me. But I did want to write something that was centered on queer men because, of course, that's what I am. And I feel like we often aren't centered. You know, we're often othered. And, you know, I've had enough of that. And so maybe it's time for some other people to feel othered. And maybe we can take the front seat, you know, for a while. So that's what this book is about. And I'm very, very proud of it. You know, I've gotten a lot of really positive feedback from queer men and women about this book, but it's not for everybody. You know, it is pretty explicit. I talk about actual sex magic techniques for solo, for couples, and for groups. And so for some people, they really found that a little scandalous. And, you know, and that's okay. You know, it's not going to be for everybody, but I definitely engage in a frank discussion of healthy magical sexuality. And so I'm hopeful that people will be able to get something useful out of it. And I'm hopeful that queer men who are practicing the craft can use this as an opportunity to no longer feel that they have to make excuses in order to practice the craft, because there is a lot in the public craft that is very heterosexist. And it doesn't actually need to be there, but it's traditional. So people think that it's necessary. So the Satyr's Kiss is about rethinking that and kind of letting queer men be queer men and fully centering that queer experience in our spiritual practice.
Amazing. Good. Next question is, what is one movie you could watch over and over again?
Oh my God, I have a couple. Let me tell you the ones that I have watched over and over again. Okay, I'll get the emotional one out of the way first. The Color Purple. Oh my God, I have watched The Color Purple probably like 30 or 40 times. And it always makes me cry. I might even cry right now just thinking about it. It's like such an emotional movie for me. But a fun one that I've watched a bunch of times is the musical The Little Shop of Horrors. And I definitely, I mean, I love musicals. I know some people are like, oh, I can't stand musicals. And I don't understand those people. I love musicals. I love the whole thing of just like bursting out into song and whatever. And I kind of do that in my life. I will sing to my dogs. I'll sing to the cats. One of my partners, Devin, and I will sing to each other just as we're, in the kitchen, whatever. So I love the whole musical thing, but I love that movie. I'm sure there's others too. I really did like the first Wonder Woman movie, going back to one of my childhood loves, but what was that, just a few years ago? Patty Jenkins directed it, and that was amazing. The second one, not as much. That's okay. But the first one I've watched a bunch of times. In fact, I took a bunch of my friends to go see it because I wanted everyone to see it. This was such a big part of my childhood, was Wonder Woman. So I definitely wanted to kind of share that with everybody. It was like, finally, my time has come. She's on the big silver screen. But yeah, so there you go. There's 3 movies that I would watch over and over again.
Amazing. 2 questions left for you. Let's do it. Look at you. Next question is, what is the scariest thing that happened to you?
The scariest thing that's happened to me. Oh, goodness. You know what? Honestly, the scariest thing that happened to me was I was the target of cyberbullying, many, many years ago. The internet was young, and so was I, but, back in, I guess, like, God, was it like, I don't even remember what year it was. I'm trying to block it out. But yeah, it was, members of, my particular witchcraft tradition were a pretty, irascible bunch. And, some of us are pretty grumpy and some of us are pretty culty. And at least how I perceive is people on the culty side, of our spiritual system were not pleased with stuff that I had done. And people started making up stories about me. And it was horrifying, to hear, some pretty heinous accusations that were completely just fabricated. And I really, for a minute, thought, am I losing touch with reality? Because it was just constant. And I remember I had like proof that this wasn't true. And I would like show people, and then I'd point to things on the web. Well, this person said this, and then that would disappear, off the web. And I was like flabbergasted. It really bothered me. Now that I've had many years to process it, whatever, I'm glad that it happened because I feel like it made me a stronger person. But at the time, it was terrifying. I felt like my spiritual community had turned against me. And I mean, that wasn't entirely true. It was a small group of people, and they're still around. They still will poke me from time to time. People will send me screenshots of stuff that they've said. They're asking people to boycott my books. They'll continue every few years to come up with some other weird accusation, against me. And it's because, it's culty. They have a cult mindset. And in their view, I shouldn't be talking about any of this publicly. In their view, they think that, our traditions should be totally secret, which is erroneous. I'm not revealing anything that I pledged not to. There are things about our witchcraft tradition that are secret, and I took an oath to keep those things secret, and I've maintained that secrecy. But that level of secrecy is not the same throughout our tradition. And so some people who have things that are more secret have decided that, oh, I'm an oath breaker and I'm not to be trusted. And then all these stories come up. And again, this kind of goes back to an earlier question. This is why I no longer care about fame, because I recognize that, like, oh, with that fame comes these types of problems. So I'm well known within my particular micro small community, and that's a double-edged sword. Some people really hate me because of it, and that was interesting to find that, like, wow, this is legit. People literally hate me, and so and that hurt my feelings for a while. I think, like most people, I want people to like me, but then I had to get over that need to have people like me. And that has been a great burden that I've been able to release. Once I no longer had the need for people to like me, it was much easier, to get my work done and to be, genuine, with what I'm doing. So, but yeah, but the whole cyberbullying thing and cyber stalking, that was scary. And, but now, I mean, it happens every once in a great while, but it doesn't affect me the same way now.
When you say culty, what it means, culty?
Well, first of all, I think anything can be culty, but when I'm using that term in the negative, people often think of a cult. You're in, a cult, and you have this mindset that is at variance with reality, and so some people who are in our witchcraft tradition, which again has no central authority, there's no pope or anything like that, but certain people have gotten together and they just have this idea that this is the way it should be done. And they're very dogmatic about that. And if you're doing it differently, then you're the enemy. And it really becomes us versus them. And so that's really what I'm saying when I say, oh, they're being very culty, that they've kind of insulated themselves and declared themselves the arbiter of, what is or is not our brand of witchcraft, I suppose. And then anybody who's not following that is the enemy and will be attacked. But I think anything can be a cult, if you are that sick with it, so that's what I mean when I'm saying, oh, the culty side, of our witchcraft tradition. It's not the whole tradition. It's certainly not the majority, but it's this vocal minority that really is kind of feeding their own mental illness. And so I just had to kind of let that go. I can't help them. I'm just going to do what I'm here to do. I feel like I'm doing what is right. If that pisses them off, okay, but I'm not trying to piss them off, but I'm kind of trying to put them out of my mind, and just not even cater to that, because I think that way lies madness.
Ready for the last question?
Okay, let's do it.
That's what. Last question for you is, okay, good one. What makes you most uncomfortable about yourself?
What makes me most uncomfortable about myself? Sometimes I lack a filter. When I am talking with somebody and I'm having like a good time with them, I'm more inclined to let things out that maybe I shouldn't let out. My husband, Chaz, has often said that I'm too trusting, and so I will just be open with people. And then that's burned me, in the past, where I've been very open with people about certain things, and then maybe later on they'll twist it and use it against me. And but at the same time, I mean, that makes me uncomfortable, but at the same time, I don't want to be different, because I feel that that's one of my strengths, is just to be open. And if people want to use that against me, then I really can't stop them. So, but at least right now, I'm sure tomorrow I'll think, oh yeah, there's this other thing that's really much more horrible about myself. But and I'm sure there's lots, don't get me wrong. I mean, there's lots that's going on that's weird in my brain, but I think that's the one thing right now that I'm thinking of, is I'm sometimes a little too trusting, and that has burned me in the past.
Storm is not the end yet. Okay, let's play now the word association game. I'm going to give away some words, and you just tell one word that comes to your mind. Quick thinking, okay?
Okay.
So, I hope you are enjoying the interview. Before we do the word association game, don't forget to give a like, don't forget to share this video, and also don't forget to subscribe to our channel. Just click on the button right there. Thank you so much, and enjoy the word association game. Family.
Mother.
Money.
Problems. That tells you what's going on right now. There we go.
Love.
Love, heart, connection.
Life.
I think trees. I was just seeing trees, leaves.
Sex.
Hot.
Politics.
Draining.
Religion.
Connection.
Fear.
Love.
Friendship.
Love.
Desire.
Sex.
Regrets.
Sadness.
Success.
Celebration.
Wish.
Was that wish?
Yeah.
Magic.
Happiness.
Happiness. Sunlight.
One word for San Francisco.
Foggy.
One word for USA.
Problematic.
Mm,
Sorry.
it's all right. One word for witchcraft community.
Oh God, that's a tough one. One word for witchcraft community. God, I have a concept, but not a word. Like in need of service. Is there a word for that? I feel like it needs to be served. I don't know what the word would be, but yeah, witchcraft community is in need of service.
And the last one now, witch. One word.
Witch, warlock. That's my jam.
Amazing. Let's pretend I'm going to meet your husband for a coffee, and I'm going to ask him, define storm in one positive word and one negative word. What he would say.
Well, on one level, the positive and the negative are the same. Trusting. One of the stories that he told me, I forget what was going on at the time, but he said, "Oh, you really believed everything Sesame Street taught you, didn't you?" I know that he kind of sometimes thinks of me as a little naive and, again, too trusting, but that's also one of the things I think that he really likes about me is that I have an open heart. So yeah, I don't know. Does that answer your question?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Let's play now, Storm, in the magic box, and you can ask me a question. You can ask me a question now, Storm.
Yeah. So how about when you were a child, what was your biggest passion?
My God, you know what? I just reached 800 interviews this week and no one asked me this question yet, I think.
Nice,
Okay.
nice.
I love that. I love the question. You put me in the spot, and now I'm gonna go back to my childhood. What I was more passionate about? Oh my God. Okay, the first thing that came to my mind was, climb trees to eat mango, to eat guava, to eat those tropical fruits that you just can't find in Brazil. I remember, my goodness, so passionate about. I could spend hours and hours climbing trees and literally just grab the fruit like the mango and eat and stay there for a while, like just, what I mean, admiring, like, the nature and the animals. Sometimes seeing some animals. I remember on my school holidays, I was going to my aunt's house. She was living in a farm. Oh my God, those memories in my life would be always here, because I remember, like, just there's no electricity, there was nothing, like, nothing that I could have, like, modernity. There's nothing. There was just a simple life, yeah, with nature. My aunt, she was cooking, like in this fireplace, and it was amazing. And I think what I miss, what I was very passionate about my childhood. It's about being in touch with nature, with the animals, and climbing trees, and enjoying those. I think growing up at this time, I was very lucky without this, technology that we have right now, which is good, it's not bad. But for me, at the time, I'm very grateful that I had this, free childhood, that I just could, be in touch with nature, with animals, and climbing trees and eating those fruits. It was amazing. I was very passionate about, for sure.
That's awesome. That's beautiful.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
Storm, did you enjoy the interview?
Very much. Yeah. Thank you so much. This has been a blast.
Thank
Thank
so
you
much
for inviting me.
Thanks for taking the time as well. So early morning. My goodness. Thank you very much for that.
Oh, and my pleasure.
Before you go, actually, I'm going to ask you, people watching the interview right now, they would like to, get to know a little bit more about the witchcraft community, or, start getting more knowledge or understanding about. What would be your best piece of advice?
Well, if you want to know more about those things, I write about all of those things, on my website. So you could go to faerywolf.com. That's FAERY wolf.com. But my partners and I also have co-founded an online school for witchcraft, and we have a lot of different witchcraft and associated courses in spirituality, meditation, and magic. And you can find out more about those and even enroll at modernwitchuniversity.com. And that's that's where we have our Black Rose Witchcraft School, which is an online 1-year course in the modern art of practical witchcraft. And you can either sign up for a monthly subscription, 12 months at $25 each, or you can get a little bit of a discount if you prepay for the whole thing. I think it's $250 if you pay for the whole thing. But go to modernwitchuniversity.com and you can check out Black Rose Witchcraft. There's other courses there as well. I offer courses and attunements in various forms of Reiki. We have our course in Modern Conjure, which is a type of American folk magic. And so you can check out those, and we have other classes and guided meditations on that website as well. So if you want to learn more, you can check out there, but check out my website because I have a lot of free material, a lot of writings, a lot of spells and poetry and articles on the craft. I also write for The Wild Hunt. I've done that for not quite 5 years now. And so I'm an opinion columnist. And so there's a lot of information from me, but from a lot of other talented people who are writing on the craft. So you could go to thewildhunt.org, I think, but you can check it out. Go to my website, faerywolf.com. It's all linked there. And certainly if people want to get in touch with me, you can go to my website and learn how to contact me. And I'm also on Instagram and Facebook.
Amazing. Before you go, if you can share a positive message, something that you live by.
Something that I live by, focusing on kindness. I really feel that that is kind of the most important thing right now, the marriage of kindness and justice. And so if those are things that we focus as pillars, in our lives, I think we can start to transform our community, but they're both equally important and they need to be together. Justice must be kind, but it must be just. And we do need restorative justice. We live at a very precarious time right now, especially in the United States, politically. So, but I think we need to be kind. We can't allow ourselves to devolve into hatred and demonizing the other, just because we feel we're right and they're wrong. We have to have, some way of working together. And at the same time, we don't need to entertain those who are demonizing other people. If we've got people demonizing people because of gender or sexuality or race or, all those things, we don't have to include them, at the table. They shouldn't be part of the discussion, so yeah, but coming back to the pillars of kindness and justice, I think those are the things that I really want to focus on in my life. And I'm hoping that they become more popular, as we move forward.
Amazing. Storm, regards to your husband, and you keep in touch. Thanks so much for the interview. It was a pleasure. Okay. Thank you.
My pleasure. Thank you so much. I really enjoyed it.
Keep in touch. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Take care.
So, did you like the show? Don't forget to give a like, to share it, and also don't forget to subscribe to the channel. And if you'd like to be part of the show as well, first, subscribe to our channel, and after that, just go to our website, www.williamandthemagicbox.com, and send us a request saying why would you like to be part of the show. And I see you there. Bye-bye. See you next time.